It was a cold Tuesday evening in November in Kansas City, and the rain was falling mercilessly on the city streets. Travis Kelce, still feeling the adrenaline from the Chiefs' intense practice, was driving his pickup through familiar neighborhood when something in the corner of his eye made him brake abruptly. There, hunched over a trash can behind a convenience store, was an elderly woman. Her gray hair was soaked, plastered to her weathered face. Her trembling hand, red from the cold, searched through debris looking for aluminum cans. With each can she found, she carefully placed it in an old, rusted shopping cart that creaked with every movement. Travis felt something tighten his chest. At 35, after a career filled with victories and millions of dollars, he had never seen anything that touched him so deeply. The dignity of this woman, working in torrential rain, was both moving and devastating. He rolled down his window, rain immediately soaking the interior. "Ma'am! Ma'am!" he shouted, but the storm's noise muffled his voice. The woman continued her methodical search, oblivious to the famous player's presence. This was Evangeline Evie Thornberry, 75 years old, and her story was about to change not only her life, but touch millions of hearts across the country. Travis turned off his engine and stepped into the rain. As he approached, he could see the woman more clearly. Despite her circumstances, there was something dignified about her methodical movement. "Ma'am," he called out, close enough for her to hear. Evie looked up, startled. Her blue eyes widened as she took in the tall, athletic man approaching. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, stepping back. "I have permission from the store owner. I'm not causing trouble." Travis felt his heart break at her defensive tone. "No, ma'am, you're not in trouble. I saw you in the rain and wondered if you were okay." Evie studied his face. "You look familiar." "I'm Travis Kelce. I play for the Chiefs, but that's not important. What's important is that you're soaked. It's freezing." Recognition dawned, followed by embarrassment. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry you had to see this. You don't need to apologize. Can I ask what you're doing? Are you collecting cans?" Evie's shoulders sagged. "I am. The pension doesn't quite cover everything. Aluminum prices aren't great, but it's honest work." "How long have you been doing this?" "About 8 months now, but I want you to know I'm not looking for handouts. I work for what I earn." The pride in her voice was unmistakable. "I can see that. But you're going to catch pneumonia. Can I buy you coffee? Get you out of this rain?" Evie hesitated, torn between accepting help and maintaining independence. "I don't want to be trouble. You'd be doing me a favor. I hate drinking alone." After a moment, Evie nodded. "I suppose a few minutes wouldn't hurt, but I pay for my own coffee." Travis smiled, recognizing the steel beneath her gentle demeanor. "Deal." Inside the convenience store, the owner called out, "Evie, you're soaked. What are you doing in this weather?" Dashiell Montgomery, the store owner, looked concerned as his eyes moved to Travis. "Travis Kelce, what brings you here?" "I met Mrs. Thornberry outside. We were both getting caught in the rain." Dashiell nodded approvingly. "Evie, sit by the heater. Coffee's on the house." As they settled near the space heater, Travis studied Evie more closely. Despite her circumstances, there was something distinguished about her. "If you don't mind me asking, what did you do before the cans?" Evie's expression softened. "I was a nurse, served in Vietnam from 1968 to 1970, then worked at Kansas City hospitals for 35 years, specialized in trauma surgery." Travis's respect deepened. "You're a veteran." "I am, though I don't usually mention. People treat you like a hero or victim, and I never felt like either. I was just doing my job." Dashiell brought coffee. "Evie's one of the most remarkable people I've met. Been coming here 8 months, always polite, always pays for what she buys." "When did you start collecting cans?" Travis asked. Evie stared into her coffee. "After my husband passed. The medical bills from his cancer treatment took everything. The house, most saving. I'm grateful for my apartment, but the pension doesn't stretch far enough." The simple statement hit Travis harder than any tackle. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you. Harold was a good man. 48 years of marriage. We both believed in working for what you have." Just then, the door chimed, and a man in a rain-soaked jacket hurried in. He spotted Travis immediately. "Travis, I've been looking everywhere for you." This was Bronson Fairchild, a sports journalist. "When you didn't show for the interview, I got worried." Travis had forgotten their meeting. "Bronson, sorry, something came up." He glanced at Evie, who had become very interested in her coffee. Bronson's journalistic instincts kicked in as he noticed the elderly woman. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. Just having coffee with a new friend." But Evie was already standing. "I should go. Thank you for the coffee." Mr. Kelce. Please don't leave because of me, Travis said. It's still pouring. I'll be fine. I'm used to it. As she headed for the door, Travis made a decision that would change both their lives. Mrs. Thornberry, wait, please. Evie paused at the door, clearly torn between escape and politeness. Travis stood quickly. Please, just 5 more minutes. The rain's getting worse, and I'd like to finish our conversation. Bronson's reporter instincts were engaged. He could sense a story. Travis, if this is a bad time, I can reschedule. Actually, why don't you stay? I think you might be interested in what Mrs. Thornberry has to say. Evie looked alarmed. I'm not interesting to anyone. I'm just an old woman trying to get by. That's exactly why you're interesting, Dashiell said. Bronson, you should hear Evie's story. Reluctantly, Evie returned to the table, perching on the edge as if ready to flee. Mrs. Thornberry, Travis said gently, would you mind telling Bronson about your service in Vietnam? I don't see why that would matter. Because people need to hear stories like yours, Bronson said gently. Stories about real people, real struggle, real courage. I'm not courageous. I'm just trying to survive. Ma'am, Travis leaned forward. You served your country, spent decades saving lives, and now you're still working at 75. That's courage. Over the next 30 minutes, Evie's story unfolded. She had enlisted as a nurse at 19, motivated by a desire to serve. Vietnam had been brutal, long hours, terrible conditions, and more suffering than anyone should witness. I saw boys not much older than teenagers with injuries that would haunt nightmares, she said quietly. But I also saw incredible bravery. It taught me that real strength isn't what you do for yourself, it's what you're willing to do for others. After the war, she worked at Kansas City Hospital, specializing in trauma surgery. She met Harold, a mechanic, in 1975, and they built a quiet, happy life. We never had children, but we had each other, and that was enough. Harold used to joke he was married to the hospital because I worked so many double shifts. The happiness lasted until Harold's cancer diagnosis 3 years ago. Insurance covered a lot, but not everything. When you're fighting for someone's life, you don't think about cost. How much do you make collecting cans? Bronson asked gently. Evie looked embarrassed. On a good day, maybe $12. On days like today, 6 or 7. The number hit them like a physical blow. Travis did quick math. At that rate, Evie would need to work every day just to make a couple $100s monthly. Have you looked into veterans' benefits? I get a small pension. But waiting lists for additional aid are years long, and there are younger veterans with families who need it more. Dashiell came over with fresh coffee. I've offered Evie work, but she says she doesn't want charity. It wouldn't be charity, but you can't afford to pay what would make a real difference. And I won't take work from someone who needs it. Travis was beginning to understand the complexity of Evie's situation. It wasn't just about money, it was about dignity and independence. What if, Travis began, then stopped, thinking, what if what? Bronson prompted. Just thinking. Travis looked at Evie. If you could do anything to help other veterans in your situation, what would it be? Evie's eyes lit up for the first time. Better coordination between service, more accessible applications, programs that help people maintain dignity while getting help. I see other veterans at the VA clinic in worse situations. You volunteer there? For medications, yes. And I help veterans navigate paperwork. It's complicated, and older veterans get overwhelmed. Travis and Bronson exchanged a look. Here was a woman who, despite her struggle, still volunteered to help others. The door chimed again, and a woman in professional attire entered. She spotted Evie immediately. Evie, I thought you were taking the day off because of weather. This was Temperance Tempe Whitfield, a social worker familiar with Evie through veteran service. Hello, Tempe. Just having coffee with new friends. Tempe's eyes widened, recognizing Travis. Travis Kelce? What are you doing here? Meeting remarkable people. Are you familiar with Mrs. Thornberry's situation? Tempe's expression grew serious. I am. I've been trying to convince her to accept more help, but she's stubborn. I'm sitting right here, Evie said with irritation. And I've told you, I don't need charity. It's not charity, Evie. You've earned these benefits. Travis could see tension building. Evie was embarrassed having her situation discussed, while Tempe was frustrated by pride preventing needed help. Maybe we should change the subject, Travis suggested. But Evie stood abruptly. No, maybe I should go. This is exactly what I was avoiding. I don't need to be anyone's charity case or inspiration story. Mrs. Thornberry, Bronson said quietly. Nobody sees you as a charity. We see someone who deserves better. Life isn't about what you deserve. It's about what you do with what you have. And I'm doing fine. But Travis could see exhaustion in her eyes. The toll months of physical labor was taking. You know what? Travis said, standing. You're absolutely right. Life is about what you do with what you have. And what you've done is incredible. But that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Evie studied his face. What are you suggesting? I'm not sure yet. But someone with your experience, knowledge, strength, you could help many people. Maybe it's time we figured out how. The room fell silent, except for rain against window. I need to think, she said finally. This is overwhelming. Of course. But Mrs. Thornberry, your cart's still outside, and you're still soaked. Why don't you let me give you a ride home? For the first time, Evie really smiled. You know what, Mr. Kelce? I think I'd like that. As Travis and Evie prepared to leave, another woman entered carrying an umbrella and the confident bearing of someone used to organizing situations. This was Sarah Blackwood, coordinator of the city's largest veteran assistance charity. Tempe! I was hoping to find you. She stopped mid-sentence, seeing Travis Kelce. Oh my goodness. Evie looked like she wanted to disappear. What had started as simple coffee was becoming a public spectacle. Sarah, please, Tempe said quietly, sensing Evie's discomfort. Not now. But Sarah's attention had shifted to Evie, her experienced eye recognizing the sign. Worn but clean clothes, defensive posture, embarrassment at being seen vulnerably. You must be one of our veterans, Sarah said warmly. I'm Sarah Blackwood, from Kansas City, Veterans Relief Foundation. I really need to go, Evie said, backing toward the door. Travis stepped forward. Actually, Mrs. Blackwood, maybe you could help. We were discussing how someone with Mrs. Thornberry's experience could help other veterans navigate the system. Sarah's eyes lit up. Absolutely. We're always looking for volunteers, especially those with first-hand experience. I already volunteer at the VA clinic. Wonderful. But we could use help with outreach programs, application assistance, peer counseling. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Evie said firmly. I'm not looking for more volunteer work. Bronson, who had been observing, spoke up. What if it wasn't volunteer work? What if there was a way to help other veterans while helping yourself? What do you mean? Travis asked. What if someone created a program where experienced veterans like Mrs. Thornberry were paid consultants? People who understand the system, who could help others navigate it. Sarah frowned. Our budget doesn't allow for paying consultants. What if the budget came from somewhere else? Travis said quietly. The room fell silent as everyone processed his suggestion. Evie looked suspicious. Mr. Kelce, if you're thinking of writing a check to make yourself feel better, I won't accept it. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about creating something real, sustainable. A program that would employ people like you, help people like you. Employment? Evie's tone was skeptical, but interested. Real employment, with real responsibility, real pay, and real impact. Dashiell came over from behind the counter. That's not a bad idea. I see veterans come through here struggling with various things. Having someone who understands, it would be incredibly valuable, Tempe agreed. The bureaucracy can be overwhelming, but Evie was shaking her head. This sounds like charity with extra steps, creating a job that doesn't really need to exist just to help one old woman. Mrs. Thornberry, Sarah said seriously, I can tell you the need is very real. We have hundreds of veterans on waiting lists, and most of our staff has never served. Having someone with your background would be invaluable. And it wouldn't just be you, Travis added. We could hire multiple veteran consultants with different expertise. Evie was quiet, clearly thinking hard. Even if this had merit, who would run such a program? Who would ensure it was legitimate and not some publicity stunt? You would, Travis said simply. Me? I don't know anything about running programs, but you know veterans and their needs. Isn't that more important than knowing budgets and paperwork? I suppose someone else could handle administration while I focused on veteran services. What if, Travis said slowly, we started with just you, part-time, helping veterans navigate the system out of Dashiell's store. See how it goes, what demand is like, and what would you get out of it? Why fund something like this? Travis stopped and looked at her directly. Because today I learned that all my success doesn't mean anything if I'm not using it to help people who deserve better. And because you could help many people, and you shouldn't have to choose between helping others and supporting yourself. Evie was quiet, rain dripping from her gray hair. What kind of part-time? Whatever works for you. 20 hours? 30? With a salary that means you don't have to collect cans anymore. I'd still want to volunteer at the VA, of course, and I'd want to ensure this program actually helps people, not just makes us feel good. Absolutely. Evie looked at their cart of cans, then back at Travis and Bronson. All right, Mr. Kelce, I'm willing to try it, but with conditions. Name them. First, if it doesn't work, if veterans aren't getting real help, or if it becomes a publicity stunt, I walk away. Agreed. Second, I want to be involved in hiring any other veteran. I need to know they genuinely want to help. Makes sense. And third, I want to start immediately. Not next month, not after lawyers and accountants. There are veterans who need help right now. Travis smiled. How about tomorrow? Evie smiled back for the first time since they'd met. Tomorrow worked. Bronson spoke up. Mrs. Thornberry, would you let me write about this? Not as a puff piece, but as a serious look at veteran services and innovative solutions. As long as you focus on the program and veterans, it helps. Not on me personally. Deal! As they prepared to leave, Travis realized something significant had happened. What started as an impulse to help one person had evolved into something much larger. Mrs. Thornberry, what should we call this program? Evie thought for a moment. How about Veterans Helping Veterans? Simple, direct, and explains exactly what we're trying to do. Perfect. Inside, Dashiell waited with hot coffee and towels. You all look like drowned rats, but successful ones. Dashiell, Travis said, how would you feel about hosting a veteran services program in your store? As Travis and Evie explained their idea, Dashiell grew more interested. That could really work. I have veterans coming here regularly, and I've got that back room I'm not using. It wouldn't interfere with your business? Are you kidding? More foot traffic means more customers. And honestly, I'd be proud to be part of something helping veterans. Tempe looked amazed. I can't believe you went from discussing the idea to planning implementation in one afternoon. Sometimes the best ideas are simple ones, Evie said. And sometimes the right time to start is right now. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Travis arrived at Dashiell's store early, carrying coffee and breakfast pastries for what he was thinking of as the first official Veterans Helping Veterans meeting. Evie was already there, looking remarkably different from the day before. Her gray hair was neatly styled, she wore clean, pressed clothes, and there was an energy about her that hadn't been there when he'd first seen her hunched over a dumpster. You're early, she said, looking up from a notebook of neat handwriting. So are you. What's that? Notes. Ideas about structuring the program, what services to offer first, how to track outcomes. I've been thinking about this all night. Dashiell emerged carrying a folding table. I cleared out the storage area. It's not fancy, but it's private and comfortable. The back room was small but adequate, with good lighting and enough space for a desk, chairs, and filing cabinet. There was even a separate entrance from the alley. This is perfect, Evie said, envisioning how it could work. And I talked to my insurance company this morning. Adding the program is no problem. Travis was impressed by how quickly things were moving. Evie, what did you think about for initial services? I made a list. Application assistance for disability benefits, housing support, healthcare navigation, and what I'm calling dignity support, helping veterans struggling with basic needs without making them feel like charity cases. What would dignity support look like? Well, I know 3 veterans choosing between heating and groceries this winter. Instead of just giving money, we could connect them with energy assistance program, food banks serving veterans, job training for older workers, help them find solutions that restore independence. Bronson arrived with his photographer, Kelce, who looked skeptical about being in a convenience store at 8 a.m. Mrs. Thornberry, I'd like to document the first day, if that's okay. Evie looked uncertain. I don't want this about publicity. It's about showing people there are new ways to address old problems, Travis said. If this works here, maybe other communities will try something similar. All right, but any article should focus on veterans who get help, not on me or Mr. Kelce. The first client arrived at 9:30. Word had gotten out overnight. Travis suspected Tempe had spread news through her network, and a man in his 60s knocked tentatively. I heard there might be someone here who could help with VA paperwork. That's right. Mrs. Thornberry is in the back room. The man, Robert Chen, had served in the Navy during the 1980s and was struggling to get disability benefits for hearing loss related to his service. He'd been trying for 2 years without success. Travis watched as Evie worked with Robert, her professional demeanor returning as she examined paperwork and asked detailed questions. "The problem is, you're missing Form 214138, she told him. "That's the statement in support of claim form. Without it, they can't properly evaluate your case." "Nobody told me about that form. It happens all the time. The system is complicated." Evie pulled out a clean form. "Let's fill this out now, and I'll help you understand exactly what documentation you need." Travis was amazed by the transformation. This was clearly Evie's element, helping people navigate complex systems with patience and expertise. Over the next 3 hours, 5 more veterans came in. Each had different issues: housing assistance, health care enrollment, job training inquiries, but Evie handled each with the same careful attention. "She's incredible," Casey whispered to Bronson as she photographed Evie working with a young veteran seeking mental health service. "She really is. Look how comfortable people are with her. She doesn't talk down to them or make them feel like they're begging." By noon, Travis realized they had a good problem: more veterans needing help than one person could handle. "Evie, we need to talk about expansion already." "I know. I think we need at least 3 people, someone specializing in disability and health care, someone for housing and financial assistance, and someone for job training and education benefits. Do you know people who could fill those roles?" "I might. Several veterans I work with at the VA have different expertise areas. But Travis, this will cost more than you initially thought." "How much more?" Evie calculated quickly. 3 full-time positions with benefit, plus office expenses, supplies, maybe a small emergency fund, probably $60,000 a year to start. Travis didn't hesitate. "Done. Just like that? Just like that. Evie, I make more than that in a single game. If this helps even a dozen veterans get services they've earned, it's the best money I'll ever spend." The afternoon brought steady streams of people. Travis found himself helping however he could, greeting people, explaining the program, even helping fill out forms under Evie's supervision. He was struck by how many veterans seemed surprised that someone cared about their problems without judgment. Around 4 o'clock, a local television crew arrived. Bronson had called them, hoping to generate positive attention. "Mrs. Thornberry, can you tell us about this new program?" Evie looked uncomfortable with cameras, but her voice was steady. "The goal is simple: connect veterans with services they've earned in a setting that treats them with dignity and respect." "And Mr. Kelce, what made you decide to fund this?" Travis looked at Evie, then back at the camera. "Yesterday, I met someone who showed me what real strength looks like. Mrs. Thornberry was working in terrible conditions to support herself, but still found time to volunteer helping other veterans. I realized I had resources that could help her help others more effectively. Some people might say this is just a publicity stunt. Those people would be wrong," Evie interjected firmly. "Mr. Kelce could have written me a check yesterday and felt good about himself. Instead, he listened to what veterans actually need and created something addressing those needs. That's not publicity. That's problem-solving." The news segment aired that evening and was picked up nationally within hours. Travis's phone started ringing with calls from other athletes, veterans organizations, city officials wanting to replicate the program. But the call that mattered most came from Evie at 9 o'clock. "Travis, I got a call from Robert Chen, the first veteran we helped today. His disability claim was approved. After 2 years of fighting, it took one correctly filled form to get him the help he needed." Travis felt tears in his eyes. "That's incredible, Evie. That's just the beginning. I've been getting calls all evening from veterans wanting help, from other veterans wanting to volunteer, from social workers wanting to refer clients. We're going to need bigger staff sooner than I thought. Then we'll hire them, whatever it takes." 3 months later, Veterans Helping Veterans had expanded to 5 full-time staff members and was serving over 200 veterans. The model had been replicated in 12 other cities, and Travis had established a foundation to fund similar programs nationwide. But the moment that would stick with him forever came 6 months after that rainy November evening. He was leaving the convenience store after checking on the program when he saw Evie in the alley behind the building. For a moment, his heart stopped. thinking she was back to collecting cans. Instead, she was teaching a young veteran how to properly search through recyclable, not for her own benefit, but to help him understand there was no shame in doing whatever honest work was necessary to get by. The key, she was telling him, is to remember that this is temporary. This is what you're doing now, not who you are forever. As Travis watched, he realized Evie had taken the lesson he'd tried to teach her about dignity and turned it into something even more powerful, a way to help others maintain their dignity even in their darkest moments. Earlier that day, the program had reached a milestone that made Travis incredibly proud. They had successfully helped their 500th veteran navigate the system and receive benefits they had earned but couldn't access alone. Each success story represented not just financial assistance, restored dignity and hope. Robert Chen, their first client, had become a volunteer with the program after his disability benefits were approved. Mrs. Thornberry didn't just help me fill out forms, he often told new clients. She helped me remember that I deserved better than what I was getting. The program had evolved beyond Travis's wildest imagination. What started as one woman helping veterans navigate paperwork had become a comprehensive support net. They now offered job placement assistance, mental health referral, housing advocacy, and what Evie called transition support, helping veterans move from crisis mode to stability. Sarah Blackwood's organization had partnered with them, providing additional resources and expanding their reach. Tempe Whitfield had left her government job to work full-time as the program's coordinator, allowing Evie to focus on what she did best, connecting with veterans and understanding their needs. Dashiell's convenience store had become an unofficial community center. Veterans often lingered after their appointment, talking with each other, sharing resources, building the connections that Evie had identified as so crucial to recover stability. The program's success had attracted national attention, but more importantly, it had attracted the attention of other veterans who wanted to help. Former military nurses, social workers, counselors, and advocates had reached out, wanting to replicate the model in their own community. Travis had been interviewed dozens of times about the program, but he always redirected attention to Evie and the veterans they serve. "I just provided funding," he would say. "The real heroes are the people doing the daily work of helping others rebuild their lives." That evening, as Travis sat in the small office behind Dashiell's store, reviewing the quarterly report that showed their expanding impact, Evie knocked on the door. "Got a minute?" she asked. "Always. What's on your mind?" Evie sat down across from him, looking thoughtful. "I've been thinking about that first day we met. Do you remember what you asked me? You asked what I would do if I could help other veterans in my situation. I remember. I answered about better coordination, more accessible processes, maintaining dignity. But I realize now I missed the most important thing." "What's that?" "Hope. The most important thing we give people isn't just help with paperwork or connections to resources, though those elements certainly matter tremendously in their daily struggle. It's hope. Real, tangible hope. We show them that their current situation isn't permanent, that there are people who genuinely care about their well-being, that they deserve so much better than what they're currently experiencing in their lives." Travis nodded slowly, feeling the profound weight of her words settle deep in his chest. He thought about all the veterans they'd helped over the past months, remembering the look in their eyes when they first walked through the door versus when they left with real solutions. "I think you're absolutely right about that. But Evie, you've been giving people hope long before you ever met me that rainy day. That's exactly what you were doing when you volunteered countless hours at the VA clinic while collecting cans just to survive each day, just to put food on your table. Maybe you're right about that. But now I can do it full-time, with proper resources, with adequate funding, with a dedicated team of people who truly understand what these veterans are going through every single day, people who've walked in their shoes, who know the system from the inside. And Travis, I want you to know something very important that I've been thinking about. You didn't rescue me that rainy day. You partnered with me. There's a significant difference between those two approaches." "What exactly do you mean by that? I'm not sure I understand the distinction you're making." "Rescue implies I was completely helpless, just sitting there passively waiting for someone to save me from my circumstance, like I had no agency of my own. But I wasn't helpless at all, was I? I was actively working every day, fighting to survive with dignity, helping other people whenever I could find the strength and opportunity. What you did was recognize that I had real value to offer, genuine expertise to share. and you created a meaningful way for that value to be properly utilized and fairly compensated. You saw me as an equal partner, not a charity case. Travis felt tears welling up in his eyes, his voice catching slightly as emotions overwhelmed him. That means absolutely everything to me, because that's exactly what I was hoping for from the very beginning, even when I wasn't sure how to articulate it properly. And that's precisely why this program works so incredibly well, why it's been replicated so successfully. It's not charity handed down from above by people who feel sorry for us. It's genuine recognition of worth and capability. We recognize that every single veteran who walks through that door has inherent value as a human being, has truly earned support through their service to this country, has something meaningful and important to contribute to their community and to other veterans facing similar challenges. Just then, Bronson Fairchild appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath from hurrying over from the parking lot. Sorry to interrupt this important conversation, but I wanted to let you both know immediately. The comprehensive story about veterans helping veterans just won a prestigious National Journalism Award for outstanding community impact reporting. The judges called it a model for how media can inspire positive social change. That's absolutely wonderful news, Evie said with genuine pleasure, though her focus remained on the bigger picture. But more importantly to me, how many other communities have started similar programs based on our model? How many other veterans are getting help because of what we started here? Last count was 47 communities across the United States, with many more in various planning stages. The model is being adapted for different regions, different veteran populations. Some are focusing on rural veterans, others on women veterans, some on specific conflict. But they're all using the core principle you established: veterans helping veterans with dignity and respect. Travis shook his head in complete amazement, still struggling to process the magnitude of what had grown from that chance encounter. 47 programs, all because one remarkable woman had the courage to keep working, despite seemingly impossible circumstances, and the wisdom to know that others desperately needed help too. It's incredible how far this spread. See, 47 programs because one football player decided to stop his car in the rain and actually see what was happening right in front of him, instead of just driving by like everyone else. Evie corrected him gently, always generous in sharing credit. No, Travis said with firm conviction, his voice growing stronger. 47 programs because one determined veteran refused to give up on herself or others and taught the rest of us what true service really means. You were the catalyst, your strength, your refusal to accept defeat, your commitment to helping others even when you needed help yourself. That's what created all of this. That evening, the local news ran a comprehensive follow-up story on veterans helping veterans, documenting its growth and national impact. The final image was of Travis and Evie working side by side in the program office, completely surrounded by dozens of heartfelt thank you letters from veterans whose lives had been fundamentally changed by their intervention. The reporter's closing words perfectly captured the essence of what had happened. Sometimes the most important victories happen not on football fields or in stadiums filled with cheering crowds, but in those quiet moments when one person decides that another person's dignity is worth fighting for. In Kansas City, that decision made on a rainy Tuesday evening has become a powerful model for the entire nation, proving that real change starts with recognizing the value in every individual. As Travis drove home that night through the familiar streets of Kansas City, he thought deeply about the conversation he'd had with Evie about hope. She was absolutely right. Hope was what they were really providing. Hope that circumstances could change dramatically, that help was available when needed, that people genuinely cared about their well-being and success. But he realized something else, too. Something that had taken months to fully understand. That rainy November evening, Evie had given him hope as well. Hope that his success could mean something far beyond personal achievement and recognition, that he could use his platform and resources to make a real difference in real people's lives, that his career could have lasting meaning beyond statistics and trophy. 6 months after meeting Evie Thornberry, Travis Kelce had learned that true strength isn't about what you can accomplish for yourself. It's about what you can help others accomplish for themselves. And in a small office behind a convenience store in Kansas City, that lesson continued to change lives, one veteran at a time, one story at a time. The bracelet Evie had once admired on Travis's wrist now sat in a place of honor, a frame on her desk. A cherished gift from the young veteran she'd been teaching about can collecting that day in the alley. It was inscribed with words that had become the unofficial motto of Veterans Helping Veterans. Temporary situation, permanent dignity. Because in the end, that's what their story was really about. The understanding that everyone deserves to be seen, valued, and helped to achieve their full potential. Sometimes, it just takes someone willing to stop their car in the rain,